Hello and welcome to Spardha Lines, your one-stop destination for the civil services preparation, UPSC, KPSC and other relevant examinations. Before we start with our today's analysis and the MCQ, we have a quick gentle reminder. What we are launching is one of the beautiful test series that you would have ever encountered. All the test series questions that you will be seeing are taken from the examples from the past, keeping in perception what has been asked in the UPSC and the KPSC and relevant such examinations as well. So what we will be launching is the Spardha Lines test series, and these test series will go live from 26th November. So the first test series is dated on 26th of November, second will be on 3rd, third test series will be on 10th, and fourth test series will be on 17th of December. This will cover current affairs from Jan to December 2023, mental ability, economic survey, budget as well as the government schemes. And this session, mind you, will be free, and you can also take up the offline test centers as well. Apart from the online test series that we have, we've also launched the offline test series. What are you waiting for? Follow the link given in the description and you would be able to avail this test series, which will give you a clear-cut idea as to how to prepare for these kind of CTO, CTI, PDO and the KAS examinations. So this will be in English as well as in Kannada. Let's get started and look into the first practice question and the first article. Consider the following statements with respect to jamdani. Jamdani is a handloom woven fabric made of silk which was historically referred to as muslin. In 2013, the traditional art of weaving jamdani was declared a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the jamdani sari, which is why we have taken this practice question. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, it says jamdani is a handloom woven fabric made of silk. This happens to be a wrong statement. Why? That is because it is not made of silk, but instead it is made of cotton. Since it is made of cotton, the first statement is wrong. Which was historically referred to as muslin? Yes, it was historically referred to as muslin. So that kind of clothing which is made out of cotton is called as muslin. In 2013, the traditional art of weaving jamdani was declared a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity. Yes, this statement is right. So when we look into jamdani, this happens to be a fine muslin textile. What is muslin? Muslin happens to be a cotton fabric of the plain weave. So when we take the cotton fabric of the plain weave, that will be called as the muslin. Jamdani was originally called as Dhakai. Why? That is because this was produced in the area of Dhaka. Currently it was in Bangladesh. Historically it was part of India. So since it was historically produced in this place called as Dhaka, it was also called as Dhakai. Though we have saris which are significant when it comes to jamdani, it is not just saris, we also have scarves as well as handkerchiefs as well. So this can be very important from the preliminary examination point of view. So remember, it is not only the saris, we also have scarves as well as handkerchiefs which have been prepared or it has been produced by the jamdani, which happens to be a weave of cotton and not silk. This happens to be the MCQ which is important from your preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about emerging technologies. What is this concept of emerging technologies? How should we adopt the same when it comes to the defense technologies in the country? What are the major impediments and the problem areas is what this article is speaking about. When we speak about emerging technologies, what are emerging technologies? Emerging technologies are nothing but new technologies, something which is new, which will also import the concepts from the past, bring changes in it, bring innovation into it, and ultimately it will bring multiple sectors also into it as well. Let's say for example, we speak of biotechnology, or we speak about cyber technology, or we speak about artificial intelligence. So every area has its own share of independence. It is bringing changes in its own domain. So bringing together the technological innovations so that we are able to gel the advantages of all these domains so that we can add something new in the near future is what is called as emerging technologies. So remember, emerging technologies is yet not realized, but then it is new technology which is bridging the differences between technologies, taking technologies together, grouping them together so that we have new innovation that we can establish. So emerging technologies are those technologies whose development practical applications are still unrealized, but we are bringing together chain of such technologies so that we can create something new. So what this article basically speaks about is that when it comes to emerging technologies, we have different kinds of technologies that we are integrating it together. So what about integrating these technologies to bring something new when it comes to the defense sector? So this article says that emerging technologies has to be imported into the defense sector, and the article focuses on some of the major advantages that has been seen, what are the steps that have been taken in the past, and what are the impediments which are stopping us from executing it. So the author in this particular case takes the example of Army, it also takes the example of Air Force, and it also takes the example of Navy as well. Most of these organizations have already employed the emerging technologies. So if we take the example of the Indian Army, we have at the Chanakya Defense Dialogue the Chief of the Army Staff who said that they have been employing the emerging technologies. So what are they doing? We have the emerging technologies. So Army Chief has already confirmed that they are making use of this emerging technologies to bring a new change when it comes to the defense on the army front. Similarly, what we have is the Air Force. Under UDAN, the Indian Air Force is using artificial intelligence, cyber, operational, logistic and training needs as well. For what? Making use of these emerging technologies to ultimately bring a new change and a pattern in the Air Force sector as well. And now what we have is the Navy. It too has said that it is moving forward with the emerging technology, which includes integrated unmanned roadmap while also encouraging indigenization under the projects such as Swavalamban. So with this Swavalamban, what we are actually promoting is the indigenous technology. When we say indigenous technology, it basically means India is coming up with its own share of programs, and these share of programs are something invented on the institutional fronts at the Indian level. So we're not importing a concept from some other country, we are creating new technologies, new ideas, new innovations so that we can ultimately serve our own country on the defense front. However, the author also goes on to say, as and when we speak about these emerging technologies, there are some concerns that we have to look at. What we have is the civilian administration, what we also have is the defense administration, and what we also have is the business outfits as well as the civilian support. When I say business outfits and the civilian support, what do I mean by it? It means that we have the defense technologies on one side where we have the DRDO, so on and so forth. Then on the other side, what you also have is business people, entrepreneurs, and they are the people who are also working on the technological upshift as well. So when it comes to such independence on the one side, the defense technology, and people who are also working on the defense technology but not the DRDOs or the institutional setup, but we have the private sector. So what this article focuses is on bringing about organizational level change, doctrinal level change, and at the same time also cooperating with the civilian environment as well. Why does the author say so? That is because he gives us a couple of examples. When you consider the old-fashioned dominance of the countries, for example, we have the Russia and the Ukraine war. The Russia and the Ukraine war, yes, they might have made use of the emerging technologies. They might have also made use of the artificial intelligence as well. So despite the emerging use of the artificial intelligence and cyber security and many other emerging technology, still these countries continue to use old defense technologies, that is old-fashioned dominance of the artillery, maneuvering warfare and the infantry tactics. So despite the emerging technology that we have, we still have to rely on the age-old technology. That is the need of the hour. So integrate the old technology with the new technology, so you cannot completely eliminate the old technology while you also continue to innovate, renovate, and also bring new technologies in the place. So the author in the first case says that when we speak about emerging technologies, there is a perception that it will be ruled by the emerging technologies in the near future. No, that cannot be so. This is where you have to bring an organizational level change, doctrinal change. Yes, you incorporate the emerging technology, but at the same time also incorporate and ensure that you have a smooth transition as well. Despite the emerging technologies taking place as well, you need to continue to use what is called as a traditional system, and that traditional system is the use of the artillery, maneuvering the warfare, infantry tactics, and this was continued to be used in the Russia and the Ukraine warfare. So the example that we can take is that when it comes to the modern technological warfare, despite the emerging technology that comes into the picture, the age-old, the traditional form will continue to persist as well. And at the same time, integrating emerging technologies requires the military to work more closely with the civilians. As we initially discussed, when we speak about these emerging technologies, it is not just the institutional setup which is working towards it. You also have the private sector, you also have the civilians as well, who are also working on the research front, developing multiple areas and new arenas as well. So integrate with them and also share the details so that you ultimately can develop something which is very beautiful in nature. So what we already have is the government and the defense ministries taking up number of measures and programs. What are these measures? For example, we have the government of India and the government defense ministry, which has developed drone platforms which are inducted in the late 1990s. So what they have been able to do is take a transition towards the modern technology, and what they have been able to develop is the drone technology. What we speak about the unmanned air vehicles, where we do not have the casualties which is resulting because of the sabotage, where we are not making use of men. All that we are trying to use is control this unmanned air vehicle through a remote channels as well. So we have been developing these drone technologies in a constant way, in a continuous process. So this is the initiative that has already been taken. We have already introduced cyber threats as well, which means to say we know for the fact that cyber threats are emanating from some number of countries. There is informational warfare as well. What is this informational warfare? Informational warfare is that particular concept in the modern defense where if you're not able to change the country on the basis of defense. For example, Pakistan has a concept of making India bleed through 1,000 cuts. So when we speak about conventional army, it has been decided time after time ever since you encounter, let's say, the 1971 war with Pakistan, or the 1999 Kargil war, or the war in the 1960s as well. What Pakistan has been able to do is it has been able to not win elections in the conventional form. So what is the strategy of Pakistan? Pakistan wants to make India bleed through 1,000 cuts. How does it do it? That is through the informational warfare. What is this informational warfare? Create a news where it throws people against each other, pit people against each other, create a fundamentalism problem, create problems within religion, and ultimately throw out such information into the public domain of India so that people actually have internal turmoil. So cyber threat is existing. So there is what is called as the hacking threats, so on and so forth. So apart from the cyber threat that emanates, what you have is informational warfare. Throw in some information into India such that it creates new kinds of fundamentalism, religious extremism, so that people internally have a turmoil. So we have had cyber threats. How are we going to defend these cyber threats? We have our steps that we have taken. So cyber threats is here to stay. Cyber warfare is here to stay. Informational warfare is here to stay. So how are we going to navigate and throw open these windows is what we have to keenly look on. And what we have also been able to do is create communication satellites to improve its military communication capabilities. In fact, India has also come up with a technology called as Shakti, where we have been able to even launch satellites and also destroy satellites of some other country as well, in case there is something called as the space warfare which eventually may happen. In that particular case, we know for the fact that all the satellites that have been routing in the space can also be hit by other countries. This particular technology is already present with United States of America, it is already present with China, it is already present with Russia as well, and India becomes one of the country which is part of this elite group. So what does it do? We already have satellites which is able to communicate with us, which is already able to communicate, and in fact we also have the IRNSS, which is also called as the Navik, which is providing the defense technology support as well. Let's go back to the 1999 when United States of America did not give us the GPS. India had to rely on Israel. To prevent such things from reoccurring, we've already started measures like Navik, IRNSS, where there are number of satellites that are launched. In fact, in case there is another country which is also wanting to destroy the satellites of India which is placed in the space, we do also have the technology to hit their targets as well. These are some of the measures that have already been taken, and we have also established Defense Cyber Agency and Defense Space Agency as well. These are n number of steps that we have taken when it comes to the past measures, when it comes to emerging technologies. So the emerging technology is nothing but new technology, but what the author says is that with the new emerging technologies, also ensure that you continue to use old technologies, because that is what we saw in the Russia-Ukraine war, and at the same time integrate the same into the new technologies. But what are the challenges that we are currently facing when it comes to the defense domains as well as the emerging technologies? The major concerns is with respect to interoperability between the three services. What are the three services? What we have is the Army, followed by the Air Force, and then followed by the Navy. Each of them are acting independently in their own way. So what we require is three services coming together. So the interoperability should be worked upon. That is the first concern. So the author as a way forward is going to say that when it comes to all these three domains, they are acting independently, but then we need more of an integration. So interoperability will have to be improved with respect to these three services. Then we have to revisit existing human resource practices, that is generalization over specialization. What is this generalization and the specialization? Let's say, for example, to give you a sake of example, an IAS is an example of a generalist, and when we speak about, let's say for example, an IRS, he happens to be an expert who is a specialist. So what is the difference between a generalist and a specialist? When it comes to a generalist, what does he do? He knows all areas, but he is not a master of everything. But what exactly happens? He has a perception and a clear vision about how the managerial positions work. So an IAS can be placed in the tourism ministry. He is also placed in the home ministry. He is also placed as a finance secretary. So he has a perception about every department, but does he have in-depth knowledge about it? Maybe, but in most cases it may also not be the same as well. Why? That is because he is not an expert of a particular subject matter. But when you look at, to give you an extra information, when you look at civil services in Japan, the civil services in Japan have specialization. For example, if I'm entering the civil services, I clear the civil services exam. After I clear the examination, a particular person is given a specialized area. So let's say if he has a finance degree, he'll be going into the finance department. Let's say I have an engineering degree, I would be entering the engineering domain. So despite all of us clearing the civil services exam in Japan, they would be given specialization, but that's not the same in India. So an IAS is in tourism, he is in culture department, he is in home ministry, he is in environment ministry. So that is a generalist, which means he has a perception about viewpoint of everything, but he's not a specialist in that. But when we say IRS, let's say income tax or custom, does he go to all departments? No, he is a specialist in income tax matters, he is a specialist in custom matters. So when we say that revisit this entire premise in defense as well, we need to have specialization over generalization. Why? Because when we speak about cyber technology, it requires its own specialization. When we speak about, let's say for example, artificial intelligence, it is a specialization in itself. A person cannot be a generalist in these aspects. So we have to move away from this generalization concept towards specialization. That's the need of the hour, because the emerging technologies are complex in nature. So apart from having a perception of the own, what we have to create is the specialization, says the author. Then the civil and defense organizations and the military needs to be more open with sharing the data, especially to fully realize the promise of artificial intelligence. What does this mean? Some data that we have, let's say for example, we have the DRDO. The DRDO has some data which is only only present with the DRDO. So what should the DRDO do? The DRDO should start sharing this information with the civilian groups as well. Who are these civilian groups? As we initially discussed, we have businesses, we have entrepreneurs, we have number of people. These people might not have enough data. So bringing about a change, bringing about this perceptual change, that this should not be just restricted to the institutions, but this should also go to these so-called organizations which is wanting to bring about new innovations in the defense. So the civilian defense organizations like the DRDO will also have to share data with the private organizations as well. Then we have to alter existing organizations and the approaches, and we have to bring separate cadres to tap into the promise of such technologies. These are the necessary changes that we have to incorporate when it comes to such changes, when it comes to the defense as well as the emerging technologies. Is what is this article all about? It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says how free cancer care alone won't help the fight against cancer in India. What is this article speaking about? The article here is speaking about cancer. The article here is speaking about the major problems that are associated with cancer. Cancer happens to be one of those health related issues where a person suffering from it will not only suffer on the health front, but also on the emotional front, also on the economic front. What happens on the emotional front? There are people who would pass away. They are the breadwinners of their family. So apart from they losing their breadwinners who happen to be the economic backbone of their entire family, they also tend to lose on the emotional front. They would have lost their near and dear ones. So this article currently goes on to say that there are measures that have already been taken by the government. Despite these measures already taken, we have to bring new changes, says the author. So what is the author focusing on? The author first focuses on what is called as the direct and the indirect ways of spending in cancer. What is this direct and indirect? Let me give you an example. Let's say for example, when it comes to cancer, cancer happens to be the third leading cause of death in India. We have, let's say for example, diabetes, heart disease, so on and so forth. Similarly, cancer happens to be the leading cause of death in India. So the Indian health system has tried number of measures, but despite these measures, we are not able to bring a change in addressing the cancer related issues. What is the major concern? We have already taken up number of measures. For example, we have the Pradhana Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, where about 5 lakh insurance is being given to the people. So this insurance that is being given to the people have also been used by the people as well. But what is the major issue? The major issue in all these cases is that 5 lakhs is provided to the insurance once they are admitted, but there are other costs that is also associated. What are these costs? One is what is called as direct medical cost. What is this direct medical cost? When I say direct medical cost, what does it involve? Let's say for example, a person is suffering from some disease. What does this person do? He immediately will have to go consult a doctor. So if he is going to consult a doctor, he has to shell out the money. This is not covered under the insurance program. So the major impediment is a person will have to get up. Let's say he has to go to a hospital. Only when he is admitted to the hospital, that is when this entire saga of insurance steps into the picture. But the first process, that is going and consulting a doctor, that is not covered under the insurance. So there is out of pocket expenditure. So he is spending on the doctor, that is the minimal charges, the consultation charges, that is not considered under the direct approach. So that is the first issue, that is the consultation that the person will be paying is not part of it. That is the major problem. The second major problem is, let's say this person is not admitted for 24 hours. Again, insurance does not come into the picture. So if this person is not admitted, let's say he has to go through number of scans. These scans, only when he is admitted, that will be covered under the insurance program. What if the person goes to a doctor and the doctor does not ask him to admit, but he asks the person to take an X-ray, or let's say for example any other scans, so on and so forth. Again, since he is not admitted in the hospital, only consultation he is spending out of the pocket, then x-ray charges he is spending out of the pocket, and at the same time he also has to spend on the medicines as well. This once again is very costly. If he is admitted, yes, all these cover under the insurance, but if he is not admitted, he is again spending out of his own pocket. So the direct expenditure involves consultation, x-ray or scan related mechanisms, and the medicines. Then what we have is the indirect mechanism. What is this indirect mechanism? When I say indirect mechanisms to the health related problems, what are the major issue? One happens to be the transportation. What is the transportation related issue? Let's say, for example, I stay in Bengaluru in the urban heartland. Now let's say a person who is from the rural heartland, let's say he is from a remote corner of the state of Karnataka. So he comes up to a specific region and he wants to move from a remote corner of Karnataka to, let's say, Bengaluru, which happens to have all the necessary facilities. So he has to travel from this remote corner to the urban district of Bengaluru. So he has to travel. That is a problem because there are no cancer related hospitals in that particular district. So transportation itself is becoming a major problem, and he has to spend a lot of money. Sometimes he has to come via the train. Sometimes if there is no train facilities, he has to come via the normal transport of buses as well. That is a major impediment. The second major impediment is, now this person has to move from the rural area to urban area. So let's say he's coming to from a remote city to a city. So in that case, he might come to Mumbai or Delhi or Bengaluru, any of these cities. So as and when he travels, he also requires the accommodation as well. So he has to shell out the money for the accommodation. This is also the indirect issues with respect to the cancer, because when this person comes, he has to show as well, and when he comes up and shows up to the hospital, the second major issue is the accommodation. He has to take care of his near and dear ones, also take appointment as well. And the third major issue is with respect to the delay. What is the delay? When it comes to the public sector, we already have hospitals, but what happens in the public sector? There are less number of hospitals, and as a result, what would happen? This person, he has to wait. So there is what is called as the round robin approach or the first come first serve approach. So whosoever comes first, his health will be taken care by the hospitals as well as by the doctors. So what if there is a criticality that is involved, but then this criticality is not being seen by the doctors because they do not know about it. It is the management which has to ultimately prioritize, but the management is not able to prioritize because there is first come first serve basis. So ultimately, since there is delay, that is, this person should actually come over today to the hospital and show what is happening with his body, but then he gets appointment after 1 month. Since there is a delay for the appointment, there would have been further changes, depreciation in his body, further hit on his health as well, and ultimately it will take a hit, and this person during this period may also become weak as well. So there are exceptional costs that are involved, and as a result, there are few breadwinners of the family. These are the people who take care of their family. If the breadwinner of the family is hit by the cancer, they would take leave. They would not be able to work for a very long period of time, and as a result, this entire family suffers because he happens to be the only person who is working. So what should the government do? The government has already taken in number of steps, but apart from that, it should start prioritizing the cancer hospitals in every district. So in a district, if there is no cancer hospital, create these cancer hospitals. If there are no institutional setup, create this institutional setup. It cannot be done immediately, but over a period of time it can be done, and it will take a lot of time, says the author. But the priority has to be that these cancer hospitals will have to be established in every district possible in India. There are already n number of steps taken by couple of governments. Let's say, for example, in the state of Haryana government has made transport for patients with cancer on one caregiver in public buses free. Then we have Kerala, where patients with cancer are eligible for 50% concession on the public bus tickets. To improve compliance with care, patients travelling to seek care in Kachar Cancer Hospital and Research Center in Assam are given financial accommodation and food. In 2017, Delhi launched what is called as the Arogya Ko scheme to reduce the burden on public health centers and avoid treatment delays. Here, residents of Delhi making less than 3 lakh a year are eligible to get certain treatments like ultrasound, CT scans in private health centers for free. So measures have been taken. More measures will have to be taken going forward is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about Draft National Pharmacy Commission Bill. So this National Draft Pharmacy Commission Bill has been introduced by the Government of India by the Ministry of Health. So this National Pharmacy Commission Bill will replace the Pharmacy Act of 1948. What is this National Pharmacy Commission Bill all about? One is to bring a change in the educational setup and also bring a change in the quality of the pharmacists that we have in India. Basically, it will repeal the Pharmacy Act of 1948 and replace the Pharmacy Council of India with a national commission. So what are the two objectives of this bill? One is to bring change in the pharmaceutical education and also to ensure that we have high quality pharmacy professionals across the entire country. So it is not just about the number of people who are coming into the picture, but it's also about the quality of these pharmacists who are coming out of the country. So in order to ensure two objectives, what we will have is a periodic and transparent assessment of the pharmacy institutions. So there will be a prescribed guidelines that will be given to all the institutions. These institutions will have to follow these guidelines and make sure that there is an established standard. They will also have to adopt latest pharmacy research in their work. Let's say for example, there is a pharmacist who is studying. So this person is studying in a pharmacy institution. Now there is new research that has come over with respect to the pharmacy, with respect to tablets or any of the other drugs or something like that. So when there is a research paper, this research paper will ultimately have to be taken into picture so that they can reinvent a new innovation when it comes to the pharmacy related practices. Now if there is a grievance for a student, so there will be a grievance readdressal mechanism in every institution as well. The bill also prohibits establishment of new pharmacy institutions or courses without prior permission from the pharmacy assessment as well as the rating board. So there will be a board that will be created called as the Pharmacy Assessment and the Rating Board. So they will prescribe a set of guidelines as we discussed. If there are pharmacy institutes which are not able to meet these standards, such institutions will not be given the license. So every pharmacy institutions will have to seek the permission and only then open up the pharmacy educational institution. So we also have the Pharmacy Ethics and Registration Board, which will maintain a nationally pharmacy register containing the details of pharmacy professionals, ensuring transparency. The commission is also tasked with setting education standards, facilities, assessments, training, research as well as the tuition fees. So it is this commission which will decide the overall curriculum and how these institutions will have to work, and at the same time it will also have a pharmacy register where all pharmacists, their names, their biodata, their entire history will be placed as part of this National Pharmacy Register. The commission will also make regulations to ensure competency of pharmacy professionals. It will also give duty to collaborate with the industry and other institutions for the use of cutting edge technology, hybrid education to drive innovation. So while they study, they will also work with the industry so that they are also practically exposed to how this entire scenario works. So basically, this National Pharmacy Commission Bill will replace the Pharmacy Act of 1948 to bring changes on the pharmaceutical education and also about the pharmacy professionals. This is what we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about the gamma ray burst. This is important from your GS paper 3, which is about science and technology. What are these gamma ray bursts? These are the short-lived bursts of the gamma ray light. So in space, what we have is a gamma ray light. So the burst of these gamma ray is what is called as the gamma ray burst, and they are the most energetic form of light. They last anywhere between few milliseconds to several minutes, and these gamma ray bursts shine hundreds of times brighter than a typical supernova and about 1,000,000 trillion times as bright as the sun. When a GRB erupts, it is briefly the brightest source of cosmic gamma ray photons in the entire universe. So remember, when astronomers looked at looked at the number of bursts versus how they lasted, they found two different classes of bursts. One is what is called as long duration, the other is what is called as short duration. These two classes are likely created by different process, but the end result is a brand new black hole. So the minute there is a gamma ray burst, the ultimate result of it is a creation of a new black hole. What are the two type of bursts that we have? One is what is called as the long duration burst. The other is what is called as the short duration burst. This can be very important from your preliminary examination point of view. When it comes to the long duration burst, they last anywhere from 2 seconds to a few hundreds of seconds with an average time of about 30 seconds. They are associated with the death of massive stars in supernovas, though not every supernova produces a gamma ray burst. And at the same time, the short duration bursts are those that last less than 2 seconds, lasting anywhere from a few milliseconds to 2 seconds with an average duration of about 0.3 seconds. These bursts appear to be associated with the merger of two neutron stars into a new black hole or a neutron star with a black hole to form a larger black hole. These are some of the important parameters from your preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is once again important from your preliminary examination point of view. What is it speaking about? It is speaking about the Langlands Program. What is this program all about? This happens to be a max project. So you might have a question in the preliminary examination. Langlands program recently seen in news is associated with which of these projects? Is it to do with nanotechnology? Is it to do with photons? Is it to do with electrons? Is it to do with maths project? Is it to do with gamma ray burst? So the answer to this would be it is a max project. So basically we have Dr. Langlands, who was awarded the Abel Prize, one of the highest honors for the mathematicians. So when we look into what this program is all about, this happens to be an attempt to find connections between two far-flung areas of mathematics. So there are two areas of mathematics. One is number theory, the other is harmonic analysis. Bringing together these two different domains of mathematics and finding connections between them is this ultimate objective of the Langlands program. So the Langlands program is to do with your max project, and this is to do with bringing the connection between the number theory as well as the harmonic analysis. What is number theory? It is arithmetic study of numbers and the relationship between them. A famous example of such a relationship is the Pythagoras theorem, and harmonic analysis is interested in the study of periodic phenomenon. Unlike number theorists who deal with discrete arithmetics, harmonic analysts deal with mathematical objects more continuous in nature, like waves, so on and so forth. So finding connections between the harmonic analysis and number theory is the objective of Langlands project, which happens to be the biggest maths project. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this topic. So this is it for today. If you are liking these initiatives, please to hit the like on the video and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also share it with your fellow aspirants as well. Thank you for watching. All the best.